And that is Spear with Father of Hate off of the Silvery Image. Now, this is supposed to be the Father's Day edition of Mostly Metal, and a song called Father of Hate might seem a little, a little not in the spirit, but when you got to fill 90 minutes with songs that have the word father in the title, you can't really be picky. The song before that was by Sonata Arctica off of their newest disc, Pariah's Child. The song was What Did You Do in the War, Dad? And Neil Morse with I Am Your Father off of It's Not Too Late. Started this hour. I'm Ken the Metal Professor. I have about 10 minutes of good tunes, I hope, or good tunes left in the show here. And with me in the studio now, getting ready to talk wrestling for a good half an hour at 9:30, is Jeremy, and I'm going to do this live. Dillema.
You got it.
Yes, I did it. I did it right the first time. Hooray. So like I said last week, I've seen your name written down many times, but I've never said it out loud, and that's what happens, I guess.
Yeah, it's not a common name like Smith or Jones, so I normally, if I give somebody guff about mispronouncing my last name, usually I'm just kidding. The only time I really get upset is when people add letters to the end of my name. I was in the Army for 8 years. My name was written on my chest. It was spelled out in plain English, and for some reason people would add an N to the end of it, so they'd go Tilleman. And I just, I'd look at them, and I'd look down at it, I'd look back at them, like, you want to try that again?
Not to your drill sergeant, though, right?
No.
Okay, good. All right, so a few more minutes of music, and then we'll get right to it. You're outfitted in your Black Hawk shirt and your Cubs hat, so clearly you're from Detroit. Is that what I'm getting?
Absolutely. Okay. Detroit Rock City.
Just as a reminder, folks have probably heard this before, but especially folks that listen to the station a lot, but coming up on July 9th from 2 to 9 p.m. at Zow Island here in Valpo is the Livin' It Up Music Festival, which is a fundraiser for Porter County Special Olympics. The tickets are only $5, and that's for hours of music, including Rolling Stones, Beatles, and Cream cover bands. So that's going to be a good time. And you know that at Zow Island, you can also get yummy things like pizza and beer. So music, yummy stuff. I believe you get a free game of putt-putt with that $5 ticket, and that's actually cheaper than a regular game of putt-putt to begin with. So you can't beat that for a deal. So go support Special Olympics of Porter County by checking out the Livin' It Up Festival. And to try to finish out this half an hour, what I'm going to do is play a couple of tracks by the band Seventh Wonder. They're one of my favorites right now. They have a concept album called Mercy Falls, and fitting with the theme of this show, there's a song called Tears for a Father, and it's very short, so I'm going to let that go into the next song, which is called Paradise. So I'm kind of breaking my own theme here, but it'll make sense once you hear it. Now, have the tissues ready, because this is a concept album, and part of the story is a father in a car crash, and he's in a coma. And so this is a 2-minute song about what his son is saying to him at bedside in the hospital. It's like Jeremy's already wincing. I think he's going to leave the room or something. But anyway, yeah, so tissues for a little bit, but then it'll get much better after that, trust me.
What's going on inside of you? Still wondering if my voice is reaching through to you.
And that's Seventh Wonder.
Your daughter has signed a letter of consent.
Stop you.
For us to use Bull.
I wanted to know what the letter said.
Well, go buy the disc.
Oh.
I could probably tell you, but it's a concept album, and it's one of my favorite albums out there right now. And the only flaw in the entire album is the voiceover narration, because they're trying to tell this story, and so a couple of times in the disc, that voice shows up to try to advance the story, and it's awful. And at one point, it shows up in the middle of the song. There's a really sweet slow song towards the end of the disc, and it gets into the kind of the middle section where they go into a bridge. It gives you goosebumps to listen to it, and then suddenly this guy's yapping in the background. It's like, dudes, if they could have a do-over, I really hope they would take that out. But
It's like the annoying couple at the movie theater. You're in the good part of the movie, and they're on their cell phone talking.
What did he say? Okay. Well, anyway, that wraps up the Father's Day edition of Mostly Metal here on WVLP. You're listening to 103.1 FM in Valparaiso, Indiana, or maybe you're streaming at WVLP.org, or maybe you're listening on the TuneIn Radio app, or whatever it takes. That's That's all we hope for. And now it's time to sneak into the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. Jeremy Tillem is in the studio with me. He is referee extraordinaire. And I'm going to play just a little bit of an intro tune here so we can catch our breath, and then we'll be off to the races.
Your insubordination will not be tolerated.
And, well, that's the end of the intro song. It's the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program. I'm still Ken the Metal Professor, and sitting across from me here is Jeremy Tillema. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having me, Ken.
You are a referee. I mean, that's not news to you. I'm just trying to start framing things here for folks that are listening. At least I hope it's not new. And so we'll chat here for the next half an hour, I hope, until 10 o'clock. And I will admit that when I was trying to think about stuff to talk about, I've had some of the wrestlers in here. It's pretty easy to think of a lot of questions to ask them. It's a little tougher to come up with some really good referee questions, but I'll see what I can do. And thank you very much for being willing to, not go see Metallica at Soldier Field tonight.
I can't afford those tickets. They don't pay me enough, brother.
or watching Money in the Bank, unless we can check results on our phone.
I mean, we could get the stream going here. We could put it on mute and watch it while we talk. I mean,
that wouldn't be distracting at all.
Not at all.
I've actually learned it might have been a mistake to pick this slot for my show. I didn't realize at the time that I was going to do that to myself and make myself miss just about every pay-per-view there is. But it's actually better to be able to go home and just skip over the junk and trim it down from 2 hours 45 minutes to like an hour and a half of the good stuff.
I would never do that.
Never.
Ever.
So you'll go home and turn on the replay and watch every minute of it until like 1:30 in the morning or something like that.
Absolutely.
You're a silly man. So I guess I don't know how often you talk to folks and do interviews like this, and I hope this doesn't get to be an old question, but let's just start at the beginning. And how in the world did you decide that you were going to do this?
Because I sucked as a wrestler.
So you gave it a try?
Yeah, one night we needed a referee. There was nobody there to do it, so they threw me a shirt and said, "Don't screw up." And that was my crash course, my training, if you will, in how to become a professional referee in 5 easy minutes.
Now, is there sort of a, I don't know, it wouldn't be a stereotype, but this misconception that anybody could do that? People are out in the audience watching the ref, and that would be so easy. But there's got to be tons of stuff that's going on that people in the audience really don't have any idea.
You just touched on a whole lot of topics in just that sentence alone.
All right.
No, not everybody can do it, because I've seen people get thrown into that situation and pursue it, and it's not as easy as it looks by any stretch of the imagination, as people have found out. The hardest part is it's not about you. Mm-hmm. Everybody that has ever gotten into the business at one point or another said to themselves, "I'm going to be world champion of every place that ever exists." And, it doesn't work out for some, and for some it does work out. But for those, they find something to do like I did, for instance, and it becomes the point where, okay, well, now it's not about you. You're a supporting cast member instead of the lead, which is different. You're not there to sell the tickets. You're just there to help the guys who sell the tickets. Mm-hmm. And that's the biggest part of being a referee, is being invisible at will. Don't be seen until you need to be seen. Mm-hmm. I guess is probably the number one thing. Yeah.
So it looks like you are keeping yourself quite busy on Facebook. I guess it was a couple of weeks ago you sort of posted your upcoming schedule, and there were lots of weeks that were already taken. So how many different promotions are you working for right now?
Continuously, right now, I am working with Pro Wrestling Blitz and AAW, both out of the Chicagoland area. I am going to be doing some work for Tommy Dreamer's House of Hardcore in August, and
Okay.
I'm really looking forward to that. And I promised him I would promote his show. That is a new promotion is going to be making its debut in October. Backbreaker Wrestling, run by my friend Sean Spinks. That's going to be in Griffith, Indiana, on
okay.
October the 14th.
I'm writing that down.
They're going to post flyers here soon, but yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Sean is actually the one who threw me the shirt in that story. He said, "Here, don't screw up." And, 7 years later, here we are. So, yeah, funny how that works out.
So, okay, well, since you said shirts, we're gonna go off the rails here, and I'll ask the question. And there's a story.
I knew this was coming.
And you prepared for it, which I appreciate. Doing the hard research before you showed up. So I just jokingly made a post earlier tonight that Jeremy would come in and I would ask him the tough questions like, why are the stripes on a referee's shirt vertical instead of horizontal, which was just supposed to be a joke. But he's informed me that he actually found out. So
It's slimming, brother. It just
That's
makes
it?
sense. Nobody wants to see a fat referee if they can avoid it. I mean, I'm not exactly, a string bean, but, I guarantee I'd look thinner in vertical than horizontal.
Well, I knew that was a whole fashion thing, that vertical stripes were slimming and horizontal stripes are the opposite. But I didn't know if there was a different, I don't know, it wouldn't be an aesthetic reason, but a more practical reason.
If there
Like
is,
with-
I haven't heard it.
With lighting or television or something.
That could very well be, But I've seen television. They've got a solid blue shirt or a red shirt or an all black shirt.
Right,
so
right.
I'm not sure if it's just for television. But that's what I'm gonna go with. Is it's slimming, brother.
Right. That's a good reason. And I'm just there's a lot of shows I've been to where we're just lucky that they have any shirts on at all. And there's other folks that don't have shirts that really should, that I wish they did. So we'll just go with it and we'll let those stripes be however they want to be. So of the promotions in the Chicago area, so you're talking about Pro Wrestling Blitz and AAW. AAW, you were rattling off to me some of the locations that they work in. They seem super active. So how many shows a month do they run in various places?
Oh, 2 to 3, just depending on the month and building availability would be my guess. I mean, I'm a very, very small cog in the wheel. I don't pretend to know what's going on behind the scenes too much, but, they've got 4 locations. I know they run in LaSalle and, another place in Chicago at least. So at least twice a month. And, they're selling out every show.
Yeah. And when I look at their cards, it's amazing some of the talent that they bring in. So I've become a big Lucha Underground fan. And without the ability to just go out to Los Angeles and attend the tapings, it seems like AAW would be the next best thing because they bring in so many of those folks.
It's a whole nother world up there, man. There's them, and then there's everybody else.
Are they the ones that? So if somebody, I'll pose this neutrally, but I'm really asking for my own benefit here. If somebody wanted to start going across the state line and exploring wrestling to the west of here, instead of just concentrating on northern and northwest Indiana, which has a lot of stuff to keep you busy, so there's AAW and Pro Wrestling Blitz. Is there one that might be the best option?
It depends on your perspective of things. I will place Sweden on this because I work for both.
Yes.
And but I will say there are some rule differences between, say, Pro Wrestling Blitz and AAW that I've noticed thus far. With AAW, this was kind of one of my first times encountering this. There's not as much that a referee has to enforce. The counts on the ropes aren't there. There's no countouts. There's no disqualifications. It's all referee's discretion. So you count 3. Count 3, and if they say I quit, ring the bell. I mean, so there's a lot more thrown at the audience because of that creative freedom at AAW. Pro Wrestling Blitz has a more traditional style.
Okay.
And which I love both. A lot of guys they'll cross over there. I mean, in Indiana, a lot of guys work the same promotion.
Sure.
Same thing. You'll see guys on LaSalle shows. I'll see at Blitz shows, and things like that.
So I'd been trying to. I mean, I knew stuff about some promotions that were active, across the border there in Chicago, but I was trying not to get too invested because I already spend enough time and money over here. But I think at some point I am going to start dabbling and getting to shows out there. My wife might not be happy about that, but
I mean, you got to follow your bliss.
Yeah. Pro Wrestling Blitz. They're the ones that just did the baseball, the
baseball
event
show,
at the end of the minor league baseball game.
Yes. They have, I believe it's five dates throughout the summer after the Windy City Thunderbolts games, weather permitting. And my first show, I didn't even know I was on the show until about 2:00 the day of. My friend Tristan Hayes texted me. He's like, "Hey brother, I need somebody to referee Cody Rhodes and Abyss. Can you please come help me out?" And I'm just sitting there staring at the screen going,
No pressure there.
no, I thought he was kidding.
Uh-huh.
I was like, yeah, whatever. He's like, no, seriously, I need help. I'm like, okay.
And you got to meet Mean Gene Okerlund?
Yeah, and Mean Gene was there last Thursday. Very nice guy. Got to shake his hand, take a picture with him, and then I had to get back to my duties,
Sure.
But that was really cool. And I believe I don't want to get the date wrong. Give me a second to pull it up. I believe it is the 29th. Is that? Yeah. June 29th, after the show, Booker T is going to be appearing there. So if you want to see the 5-time WCW champion, come on out.
Five-time.
Yes, sir.
Is that baseball team? Going off the wrestling thing just for a second because I'm curious. Are they a direct farm team, or are they? Do you know? Do you have an idea? Are they affiliated with a major league club?
I don't know who their affiliations are, but I can liken them to going over to Gary and watching the Railcats play. It's same kind of aura.
Which I love to do.
Oh gosh, I love going to Railcats games, just watching baseball. Any baseball is good for me.
It's cheap, free parking. The hot dogs are just as
good.
Good
Night out with the family. It's an American tradition, man.
Definitely.
It's America's game.
So you were talking about Cody Rhodes and Abyss, and then you got to meet Mean Gene Okerlund, and this is all at one event, so that must have been a lot of fun. Who's been your biggest holy cow, I can't believe I'm working the same event, and if not, maybe even the same match as this person?
All of them, because every match is a blessing. I mean, I never thought growing up, you grow up and you say you're going to do it, and it's just big talk. Yeah, I'm going to be president of the United States. I'm going to be a world wrestling champion, et cetera, et cetera. You get out of high school, it's over. Somehow I found myself in the world of professional wrestling, and I get the opportunity and the privilege of working with such great professionals, and I still go off in a corner and kind of sometimes ask myself, what are these guys doing outside of my television?
Do you have a particular kind of match that's your favorite? Singles, tag team, battle royal?
This is going to sound very PC and cliche. I love the match that the crowd cares about, because the more they care, the more you want to make sure that everything is locked tight and right, So the louder the crowd gets, the more into it you become, because there are sometimes you could have a great wrestling match, and if the crowd's not caring, they're just going to sit in there going ho hum. It's hard to really get to that level. You need to, especially if it's like a main event or a really big title match. That means something. That can be hard to do at times.
How does that affect you? I mean, in terms of crowd reaction, a quiet crowd during a match, a loud crowd, when the wrestlers are doing their thing and they're supposed to be the focal point, you can tell sometimes that they're changing, they're playing more to the crowd, etc. What are things that you might do based on the fact that the crowd's reacting louder and more vociferously and getting more into it? Or what might you do if they're quiet? Is there stuff that you can do in your don't be noticed kind of mode?
Every situation's different. I mean, there's no clear, ABC method to it. I mean, again, it's kind of play it by ear and just go with your instincts. I mean, I wish I could give a better answer than that, but like I said, every situation
Sure.
is different. Every single guy that gets in there and does a match is different. They have different styles, different personalities that'll that they can bring out that you play off of, because again, it's not about me and what I do. I do is based off of what they do, and that's probably the best answer I can give you is it's a group effort.
If somebody wants to sort of watch matches on on television, let's say at WWE or whatever it is, and try to watch kind of behind the main performers and watch the referee to pick up what's catching things. This person is doing something that I might not notice otherwise unless I'm looking for it, but it makes me appreciate what they're doing. Is there anything like that that people can look for?
From what I have garnered from a friend of mine, if you don't see them, there's a reason for that, and you only see them when the producer wants them to be seen. But when you do see them and they're doing something on screen, they, for instance, there's something going on in the corner per se. Somebody's getting worked over, ref will back them up. There's a chance that a message could be being relayed from the producer to the to whoever, saying, hey, you've got X amount of time, or hey, do this, hey, do that, or don't do this, don't do that. I had an instance like that at Blitz where I got told to pass along a message to people in the ring, and got in there and so I can break it up, and hey, this needs to happen. And the referee is kind of he's kind of like the string between the two, to use your phrase, the two styrofoam cups. He's the line of communication between all parties considered.
Okay. Are there cults of personalities in the referee circles? Like we know with wrestlers, there's people that become favorites that everybody, this is their favorite person. I always like to watch him when he's on television. Do you have favorite referees that you like to watch?
Yes, I do. Growing up, I always loved Earl Hebner. And then it became Mike Chioda, because Mike Chioda brings out the inner grumpy old man in me. I just, that is not in any way meant to be offensive or derogatory. It's just, I've just kind of noticed he, at a certain point, it just feels like he's like, get off my lawn right now, which I love.
What's the craziest thing that has ever happened during one of the matches you've been officiating that you had to deal with somehow?
It happened last October at a Comic-Con show. I was in the ring with Greg Glover and Stonehand Slater Wallace. Shout out to both of those gentlemen. Love them dearly. A participant, or not a participant, a member of the audience was stepping over the lines of what is proper crowd participation. Now, I was down and out because Greg Glover hit me, because you always hit the ones, you hit your friends. But I'm down and I'm semi-conscious, and I hear this clatter. And I guess the guy threw a chair in the ring.
Oh, jeez.
And Greg went out after him. And by the time the interaction was done, I believe the gentleman was crying from the verbal tongue lashing that Mr. Glover inflicted upon him. And I have always gotten a good chuckle out of that, because for all of you that don't know, there is sometimes an imaginary barrier around the ring. There is sometimes a real barrier around the ring. Pretend that is a shark cage. You are inside the shark cage. Outside of it, the second you get inside, you're going to get tore up. It's just plain and simple. Do not go in there. There's a reason it's there.
Yeah.
That is for your safety.
I've seen some people at shows that I've worried about because maybe they've had a little too much to drink, and I've never seen anything like that. I have seen a lot of people that either don't know that line, but they have this sense of where it is and get right up to it, or they're just really good at being audience members because, one of the wrestlers will come out and start getting in people's faces and somebody will just stand up and get nose to nose with them, like right there. They won't touch them, but they'll get nose to nose, and you think, oh, is this going to go bad? Is this what's this dude doing? And then they'll, so some people seem to be really, really good at being audience members, but knowing exactly where that barrier is.
Like I said, that barrier is there for your protection, not theirs.
Oh, I believe it. So you actually sort of answered one of my other questions here was about, how much hands-on people have been able to get with you. So when you mentioned Greg Glover, that was an example that came to mind, like, one of those cases where he's about to give a spear to somebody and suddenly that person ducks out of the way or pulls you into the way and suddenly you're on the ground. What's the worst thing along those lines that's happened? Does it happen often?
It's gotten less and less as the years have gone by. It does happen on occasion. I think probably the most painful thing that comes to mind is I got squashed in a turnbuckle by Abyss, and my back just hit the turnbuckle just right so that it bent over the turnbuckle, and my head snapped back. I went down, and I felt that one for about 2 or 3 days.
I can imagine. That seems to be one of the most common sort of structures like that I see is the referee sandwich, where somebody gets in between two people that, boom, collide, and you're right in the middle.
You'd think I would learn my lesson because it happened again at Blitz with Abyss again. But nope, I got caught again.
He's got it out for you.
He's deceptive. Man, you got to watch out for him.
In terms of some of the mechanics that you have to learn, when in my head, when I have an image of somebody officiating or refereeing, you get this image of somebody like slapping the mat to do the count. When you really watch, it seems like what folks are doing are actually clubbing the mat with the base of their hand to make the noise. Am I seeing that right? And if that's true, how do you have feeling in your arms anymore?
Just get used to it. I slap it with the open palm, but some people will come down with their full form. Some people, will do that. But, the crowd needs to hear what you're doing. So make as much noise as possible on those counts, because if they don't know what's going on, how can they react to it? So, it's a good steady 3 count goes a long way.
Yeah, it does. And contributing to the noise, that seems to me, again, from the outside looking in, not having any knowledge of how things really work, right? That seems to me one of the best things that a referee can do, that it's also very noticeable when they're not doing it, is trying to contribute to the noise of the match. So especially if you have a quiet crowd and the wrestlers they're doing their thing, and there's the clashing and banging of the mat, but you want to hear voices and yelling and stuff like that. And sometimes I'll watch a match and the ref will just kind of be hanging around in the corner, kind of looking at what's going on, but not not mixing it up physically, but yelling commands at them and circling them and providing some motion and noise when the audience isn't. Is that a thing?
Oh, absolutely, that's a thing. If it doesn't look like you don't care, the crowd's not going to care either. I've always kind of had this thought in my head that the referee is kind of the lightning rod, or the indicator of how a crowd should kind of feel about what's happening in the ring. If something dirty has happened, the referee's going to get really mad and admonish whoever did the deed, and the crowd should at that point know that, hey, that was dirty. Boo, that guy. That guy's a horrible human being. He probably threw at his kid in a softball game. But or if something really amazing happened, like, oh my goodness, whoa, count through 1, 2, oh my goodness, he kicked out of it. It was only 2, But it's a lot of little things that go into it that if nobody notices a lot of what a referee does, they should notice the 3 count, and they should notice how the attitude changes at certain points. if they get lost in the match, the referee will tell you.
Yeah. And it seems like the getting noticed when it's time to get noticed. I can imagine that it's probably a bit of a badge of honor if you're working, especially like a tag team match or something where they're playing the distractions, where one of them's distracting you while the other one's, somebody's getting beaten up in the corner over there, and you're not seeing it, and people in the front row are just getting livid and yelling at you and complaining about your lack of glasses or whatever it is.
I wear
That's got to
contacts.
give you that warm, fuzzy feeling when that's happening, right?
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. When it goes right, it's wonderful. When everything's going right and the crowd's caring and reacting, and everybody's doing their part, and when the referee gets his Barney Fife shoes on, and he's so determined to enforce the rules that he's not paying attention to the matter at hand. Yeah, it's pretty fun to get that reaction.
The other thing that I love to watch is when the ref feels the blows that the wrestlers are getting, like the knife-edged Ric Flair woo chops to the chest. One will just echo through the venue, and the ref is like grabbing his chest and going, "Oh, that had to hurt."
I'm going to address this because for any referees that might be listening, be forewarned that doing that in one place may not necessarily be a good idea in another place. Case in point, I was doing that early on in my career, reacting to the blows in the ring, and no one was saying anything to me. So okay, it's just business as usual. I went and did a House of Hardcore show, and I was reacting to it as I normally would, doing my normal thing, and Sandman pulled me aside.
Okay.
Hey, come here. Why are you reacting to all that stuff? Because I don't react to that stuff, kid. Nobody's paying attention to you. Stop that. Do you ever see an umpire react like that to a home run? Do you ever see an NFL referee react like, oh my God, to a touchdown? No, stop doing that stuff. You're taking away from the match. Yes, sir.
He's definitely somebody you're going to say yes, sir, to.
Please don't hit me with that cane.
But I'll take one of your beers.
Absolutely.
That's interesting, though, because I never would have. It seems to me, I see that kind of thing a lot, and to me that actually adds a little bit because it helps propagate the reality of what's happening a little.
Yeah, like I said, what works in one place does not necessarily work in the other. Like we were talking earlier about how there are different rules in different promotions, like say Blitz and NAAW. Same thing with referees. Referee Charles Robinson up there in WWE, he does that, but he can do that because he's Charles Robinson. He's got the time in. Nobody's going to say boo to him.
Yeah.
Joe Schmo, that's still learning the ropes, it's best to get a feel for what flies and what doesn't fly. And, hey, lesson learned. I'm not going to be as arrogant to say, hey, don't do that because Sandman said so.
Sure.
But case in point, be forewarned, things change.
So if somebody just throws a shirt at you and says, get in there and don't suck, try your best to at least watch some stuff that's come out of this particular company to try to get a sense of what's good and what's not.
Absolutely. Just because you're a referee does not mean you can't go and study film.
Right. And you probably look for entirely different things.
Yep.
So we're down to our last couple of minutes here. So sort of recapping, events coming up that you'll be participating in, AAW, Pro Wrestling Blitz at various times and locations. You mentioned House of Hardcore. Now, is that going to be based in Chicago, or is that...
That is going to be out in Geneva, Illinois. The name of the team escapes me at this point, but it is on my Facebook. I've been promoting that actively since I got the call that I would be participating in the event. On July 29th or June 29th, I'll be in Crestwood for Pro Wrestling Blitz at the Windy City Thunderbolts. I will actually be at Six Flags Great America doing some stuff for Pro Wrestling Blitz on the 2nd and the 4th of July. And from there on, August, I'm booked almost every weekend. I'm booked. I got a booking in every month going up to October, so I am blessed to have more than I can rattle off the top of my head.
How many miles do you put on your car in a month?
I try not to think about that. Is that Han Solo line? Hear me, baby, hold together. Come on,
Yeah, I can imagine. And then you mentioned October 14th. We'll have another show relatively close to us in Griffith,
Indiana.
And what's the name of that group again?
Backbreaker Wrestling.
I will keep an eye out for that and put it in the list. They made the list.
Yes, sir.
All right. In our last 1 minute or less, is there anything that you want folks out there to know about life as a referee? The ups, the downs? If somebody wants to get involved, how do they do that?
You go to a promotion and you help out as much as you can, and you expressed interest and you apply yourself, and eventually, if they feel they can trust you, you will get an opportunity. Or they'll throw a shirt at you and say, "Don't suck,"
I think you need to make a shirt that says that, like have an image of you catching a shirt with "Don't suck" across the bottom.
I toyed with an idea for a shirt, and that might be my second one. The first one was, I'm the best 3 seconds of your life, but I feel, that may not be appropriate for all family-friendly events that I go to, but that other shirt may actually work.
There's merchandising opportunities. And if anybody goes to these events and they want to see you, they can recognize you because you will be the guy in the black and white vertically striped shirt.
I'm the guy that yells the obnoxious two.
And then everybody shouts it back at you and says, "No, that was 3."
I never even realized I did until they started doing it back to me at some places, which, oops.
All right. Well, thanks you so much for coming in. Good luck with everything else that you've got coming up. And I hope you work matches with Abyss in the future, but I hope you get to stay out of his way.
I do too.
All right. That brings to a close the Northwest Indiana Wrestling Action Program, and now I will slide you over into the replay of Punk Rock Radio.